Hi, West Ham fans. Welcome back to Babbling Irons. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but we're going to do a little breakdown on one of many players we've been linked to in the last few days. This time it's Fotis. Now, apologies again for all of this pronunciation. Ioannidis, who is in the Greek league, plays for Panathinaikos. Probably not a name many within the fan base that know of him. Obviously, Greek league, that probably just throw up some red flags for others. However, we brought Tim Steiden in specifically to go out and find these type of players. He's known as the Pearl Diver, obviously. And we are arguably wanting to look in these maybe less illustrious leagues, less kind of viewed as elite kind of type players, to go and find maybe and unearth a rough gem that we can then probably bring into the team and kind of move forward. So hopefully this may be one of those players. We'll kind of discuss our thoughts on the player, how we think maybe he's fit, and just generally how much we feel this story has some legs. Because let's face it, there are a lot of stories at the moment. Not all are going to come true. So, Sloth, what was your first thought when you saw this as a link?
I mean, one of the things that I noticed about it was actually before we were linked, Eintracht Frankfurt were linked, and that is generally always a good indication for forwards. And you look at their recent business; they've just been absolutely smashing their recruitment. And if they're linked with a player, you generally know they're going to be quite strong. I'm not going to lie; I don't watch much of the Greek league. I used to quite like watching the European nights of the Greek fans. Is good fun, but I don't watch much Greek football. So one of the things that I did when I first saw the link was just type his name into Twitter, see what other accounts that I like say about him, and also just get a general idea of who he is, how he plays, and whether he'd suit our system. And I've got to say, I was quite pleasantly surprised. I think one of the comparisons that I saw is someone said that he's quite similar to Benzema in ways and in how he plays. And
I saw the kind of Harry Kane type was another one that kind of sprung to mind in how he likes to drop from the front, play over his back to goal. Again, that's what Benzema has made an absolute living on and has become exceptional in the last few years. Like Benzema was just incredible the way he was doing it. But yeah, like I say, he has that. He likes to come and drop deep, collect the ball, ride a challenge, roll a challenge if it comes in, and obviously look to bring players into play. He's not, I wouldn't say he's the traditional out and out target man. However, he has those elements as well as some of those deeper lying centre forward kind of, I guess, tropes as well as part of him.
I think that's one of the things that sort of made me go, maybe. And of course, I watched a few more highlights, and you see that he is quite powerful. He is quite quick, but he does appear to have a lot of the pressing attributes that we want. He's got that work rate. He's also got the ability to kind of close down the centre back and limit their range of passing. So I think in terms of fitting into our front three, look, I'm not going to pretend that this signing is going to, lift up any trees or anything like that. I think
it's not like a Moani who me and you wanted massively before he went to Frankfurt.
Yeah, exactly. I think this would be the sort of deal for. I think Frankfurt bid about €8 million for him, and Panathinaikos basically said no way. I personally think it would probably take about 10-12 million pounds, and then they would maybe think twice. I think he would probably want the move, and that would be the big driving force behind the deal. But it's one that I'm not going to pretend I'm going to get really excited for. But I think in terms of what we need, his physical attributes and his playing style, they seem to suit what we want. And he can't half hit a penalty. That's one of the things that I saw. He's very, very efficient with those. And in terms of his physical attributes, it makes a good change that he is actually quick, strong, and works hard.
Yeah, has those, I guess, the Brozier elements that Moyes likes about Brozier. So kind of let's get into probably why he's kind of drawn some attention from West Ham. If we look at him compared to the other 8 leagues in Europe outside of the top 5, so what we're talking about here is obviously the EFL Championship, the Swiss League, the Portuguese, Austrian, Greek, Belgian, Dutch, Scottish leagues, all of those compared, and obviously players who've played over 600 minutes. So this is obviously a view as to his percentiles against those leagues and players that have played in those leagues within his position. And it's quite clear when you look at it from that, if you compare him against those other leagues, he's very much performing in the upper percentiles, definitely well above average in a lot of aspects. Obviously, people may then look at, oh, well, aerially, he doesn't necessarily look like he's dominating. That is true, but also there is a lot of what he's played. He earns a lot of fouls from his ability to hold the defender. He's very strong and uses his body well to earn fouls from that. He may not win many of his headers when you look at that. However, I believe he's got 3 to 4 headed goals this season, all from set pieces as well, which again would be another thing that would really please West Ham, because it's one of our big threats is from set pieces. You add another threat like that to your kind of toolkit. It's fantastic. As you said, Sloth, his link play is actually really pretty good. Does have 4 assists this season. Does hold up the ball very well. Does like to link players. Part of that is because of, again, that Benzema, the Harry Kane aspect, in that he likes to kind of drop off of his centre forward position to kind of take the ball in pockets of space and link play and so on and so forth. Get in front of goal. It's been incredibly clinical. You could argue it's a purple patch. He's never scored more than 10 goals for Panathinaikos until this season, where he's now on 16 goals and I think 6 assists in total across all competitions. 5 of those being in the Europa League, which obviously competition that we were in. Proficient again, penalties, absolutely. He's scored 8 goals in the league. 4 of those have been from the penalty spot. I think he scored at least 1 in Europa League as well from the penalty spot. As I say, score with his head as well. He scored a couple with his left foot, but he's predominantly very much right-footed. That's one of the things that I'd say about him that is quite evident. He's very much likes to use his right foot, build his right foot. But I think also what you can see here as well, that wanting to be on his right foot is very clear from that heat map. He predominantly sticks to that right-hand side. Loves to get in the area because, again, very big heat blob right there for being that middle area, and obviously likes to drift over to the right. So one of the good things is, if he does come to West Ham, him coming into that right-hand side does allow the likes of Bowen then to drift inside if Bowen goes out to the right side, or Kudus, or if Kudus is on the left, again, he'll create openings centrally for those 2 players to kind of move. I think, as I say, the ability to be a threat from set pieces will definitely be something of interest to David Moyes. He has the ability to hold up. I do have reservations in the sense of, you could argue, as I say, is a purple patch. Not having a striker who's not hit double figures up until this season is maybe slightly concerning. You had your reservations about Antonio as the not hitting double figures. So is that something that you would be concerned with? You're looking at a player who arguably is just in a purple patch, and if we was to sign him, he's not necessarily going to continue that for the duration, say, of his contract for West Ham, and may actually be a bit of a damn squib, because we've seen the likes of a Yeti come in, and I know there's probably people thinking that, oh no, it's another Yeti situation.
I think the difference is the quality of opposition that he's scoring against in the Europa League. I think one of those Villarreal, is it?
Both games against Villarreal.
And you look at that sort of game. Obviously, it's not the top indicator of his ability, but to do that across both legs is pretty impressive. One thing that I will say as well is that when we're comparing him to players who are in that sort of the divisions outside, say the top ones, you look at some of the players who've made the move and made the step up into those leagues this season. Look at Boniface, a player that I really wanted us to sign in the summer, and has taken to the Bundesliga like a duck to water. Like, he's absolutely smashing it there. And you cannot just... football has become so expensive that you cannot just expect to sign players from the leagues around you, the leagues at the similar levels,
and shop in the top 5, because you're limiting your pool. Unless
yeah.
you're like Atletico Bilbao, who only buy Basque players, it's not always going to work to have such a regimented view of, we can only buy from the elite leagues. It's fundamentally just not going to work for a club like West Ham.
I think as well, when you look at at the alternatives, saying the option we have off the bench is Danny Ings. And look, I know people have been telling me that he's been playing well recently, or he's looked bright when he comes on. At the end of the day, in my opinion, it's the worst financial deal that West Ham have ever done in the Premier League. I think it's a terrible deal. And this is the sort of signing that I would much rather us make than someone like Danny Ings, because I'm not picking on him. I'm not trying to just deliberately be mean and pile on him. But the reason I bring him up is because when I look at the type of player he is, he fits the system. When I look at the age, there is a bit of ability that if he does flop, you can still sell him on, you can loan him out, and you can potentially recoup the majority of that fee. We're already talking about potentially having to loan out someone like Danny Ings and pay the majority of his 125 grand a week wages. Now, that is not a possibility with this guy. There's no way he's going to come in and go, I'm going to get 125,000 pounds a week and I want a big contract, and it's just not going to happen. He can be the most confident lad in the world, but West Ham would just laugh him away. And it's the fact that if we don't take a gamble on these players, you miss out on so many gems. And Frankfurt, they did move on to Dorisemu, who from Plitzen, who was scoring for fun in the Czech League. We have had numerous successes from the Czech League in recent years. So it should tell you what you need to know, that they are looking at the player and thinking, we'll make an offer, before they moved on to him. So
yeah, it becomes an unconscious bias. So you look at more the negative ones as opposed to ones that have done well. And let's not forget that I am pretty sure he was at Olympiacos at the time, but one of the players that was a great success under Moyes was Kevin Mireles, who he bought from I think Olympiacos at the time, brought him over. We had mixed success with Masuaku as well, also from Olympiacos, funny enough. But again, it's if you limit yourself to these kind of top leagues, you miss out on these gems. And obviously, had we limited ourselves, then we wouldn't have looked at maybe Ajax for Kudus or Alvarez. And even then, there was reservations about those because they come from the Dutch league. And it's more you're looking at the league than the player. And I'm not saying that Fotis is going to be a player that's going to come in, he's going to dominate, he's going to be our next Antonio, he's going to go on and score hundreds of goals and all that stuff. What I'm saying is that just looking at that league and saying, well, that league is terrible, also detracts from maybe the actual player, and you're actually having an unconscious bias towards, or a negative bias towards that player, without actually looking at the elements that he's done well. And once again, in Europa League, he's performed to a good standard, scored twice against Villarreal in both games this season in the group stages, scored 5 in 6, which again is a very good kind of tally. He's done very well in their league. Again, I do have concerns that this is the first time he's scored this many. However, some players do develop a bit later, and he has in previous seasons been a bit more in a kind of withdrawn role, which is why I think he does have that ability to come short and kind of look to play the ball. He has played on the wings before for Panathinaikos. So it's not something that is unusual to David Moyes to have a winger who he turns into a striker. Would you say for this deal, Sloth, do you give this much legs? If you used to say out of a scale of 1 to 10 as to the likelihood of this coming through, do you think that this is one that's going to come through, or it's just one that we've monitored because of now with the likes of Steiten and Newman getting really embedded, we're just expanding our view of players and what type of players that we maybe look at and which leagues?
I think it's maybe if I was to rate it out of 10, I think I'd probably give it a 5. It's not one that I think we will get, we're going to chase up and we're going to look to get over the line before we play Sheffield United. But I think it's going to be one that, if we are assessing our options and say we haven't got the left wing position sorted by, you know, the last week of the window, then I think we'll probably chase it up. It's just, for me, it's really positive to see us actually looking at a variety of targets, and more importantly, people who fit the profile, people who fit what we want at the club, and what Moyes wants at the club. You know, what any manager would want at the club: someone who is quite big, strong, quick, and able to link up. So it's I don't really have too much of a worry that it's a purple patch. I always think there's got to be that springboard, that starting point for strikers. And you look at Antonio, you look at players like, you know, Harry Kane, who developed relatively late on, even Serhou Guirassy, who is another one that we're linked with and rumoured to be interested in the buyout clause of. You look at those kind of players who have come quite late into the game and taken the place as that main man and really thrived in it. You know,
the deal was to come through. Everyone's held a genius, and what a stroke of I guess, you know, foresight and brilliant scouting. It's one of those ones. If it goes to positive, everyone is lauding the judgment at which to bring this player in.
Well, you look at the end of last season, and you know, people are telling me that Guirassy's on a one season wonder, or he's in a real purple patch. Well, he was fantastic at the end of last season for Stuttgart when they brought him in. He was scoring 1 every 2 games. So, you know, these purple patches aren't always indicative of the player that you're looking at. And I think what separates purple patch players from consistent players is their work ethic. And when you see the likes of Ioannidis and the work rate that he does, I think that's where you're going to see someone like that thrive or fall.
No, absolutely. So I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up. So yeah, guys, if you've liked this video, please do like, please do subscribe. Let us know your thoughts as well. You know, do you think this is the right kind of deal to do? Do you think this is maybe a new direction West Ham are trying to take with looking at maybe these maybe unrefined players, or players that are playing in less favoured leagues in which to find a value for money and a potential new star who can be part of our squad or even first team going forward? So again, everyone, thanks for watching. And as ever, Sloth, there's one last thing to do, and that is...
Come on, you Irons.